The story begins with the laughter of a girl who mocked and insulted the protagonist, calling him a joke and pathetic. She made it clear that, had it been up to her, they would have never been childhood friends. Amidst her laughter, the protagonist could also hear something breaking inside him. But to better understand how we reached this moment, let's rewind a bit. Takayashiki Rua, a girl far from ordinary, was a popular idol at the peak of her career. She was also the heir to a massive Japanese conglomerate with unparalleled political and economic power. Her looks earned her the title of princess, much like those in fairy tales. On the other hand, we have our protagonist, Suzuki Kasuma, dull, gloomy boy with no friends or girlfriend. A true otaku, so to speak, with only one defining trait. He was Rua's childhood friend. That was the only thing that set him apart, and up until then, he had always lived in her shadow. But unlike her, he didn't need to be special or anything like that. He just wanted a normal life, with friends and a girlfriend. Those were his simple desires. He had once confided in his friend, and her response had been that he was an idiot. An otaku, like you, should know your place, she told him. She added that his only value was being her childhood friend and beyond, that he was nothing, and he should accept that. It wasn't surprising. These were the kinds of words she'd always said to him since they were kids. Words that constantly echoed in his mind, like a curse. But despite it all, the protagonist just wanted to be normal. And with that in mind, spring came during his first year of high school. Kazuma was studying in his room when he heard a notification on his phone. Looking at it, he saw a message from his friend, inviting him to karaoke in 3 days with a group of friends. She added that Yahiragi would be attending as well. Kasuma knew who she was. She was as striking as Rua, though he had never really talked to her. He wondered why Rua was mentioning her now. Another message came in. Rua reminded him of his desire to make friends and have a girlfriend, and insisted he attend to take the first step toward achieving his goals. She encouraged him to be brave. These words filled Kasuma with motivation, and with that in mind, he went out the next day to buy the best clothes he could afford. He even worked up the courage to get a haircut. Finally, the day of the meet arrived. Determined to take a step toward change, Kasuma opened the door to the karaoke room. However, when he entered, all he heard were the mocking laughs of the group, making fun of him for actually showing up and for cutting his hair. The girls commented that he still smelled like the hair salon, while his childhood friend, part of the group, laughed and said he must have really tried hard. Kasuma understood it immediately. Was that kind of event, that kind of joke. Rua, smiling mischievously, approached him and asked why he was just standing there. With a big smirk, she told him not to hold back and that he could cry if he wanted. She even bet 1,000 yen he would, and said it would be fun to watch him do so. At that moment, Kasuma murmured something, but Rua couldn't hear it. She asked him what he had said. That's when he asked if he had done something to deserve this treatment. Hearing this, Rua laughed uncontrollably and said it was obvious he was her slave. She told him to stop saying nonsense and cry from embarrassment, calling him a joke, repeating the same words she had said at the start of the story. She added that the mere fact of being her childhood friend annoyed her. Hearing this, something inside Kasuma snapped. He responded, saying that he felt the same way, and asked if they could end their relationship. Rua was stunned and angrily asked what he was saying. He confirmed that he was saying exactly what she had heard and that she had said the same thing. She complained that she could laugh at him, hate him, but he had no right to do the same. As she insulted him, Kasuma looked at her with pity, thinking that if someone like her could be an idol at the peak of her career, then the world was truly lost. After that, he slammed the money on the table, turned around, and walked out, saying that was it. Ruha's friends laughed, thinking he was being sentimental, while the girls told her not to worry about a guy like him. Meanwhile, one of the girls, looking at the table, asked if it was broken. She wondered if the boy had broken it when he hit it. They denied it, saying it would be impossible and that if he had, the boy wouldn't be human. Rua, frozen in the middle of the room, ignored her friends, calling her lost in her thoughts. After a moment, she screamed in tears that she couldn't allow it and would never forgive him. On the other hand, Kasuma, outside the karaoke, felt a sense of lightness. The world seemed brighter than ever, and he wondered why he had been enduring All of this from a girl who was nothing more than a beast in human disguise. That's when he had an epiphany. He didn't need to live for her, under her shadow. He was free. That same night, in the Takayachiki mansion, the president of the Taikai group and director of the Takayachiki Teiso Academy was reviewing some files when he heard the voice of his granddaughter, which filled him with happiness. Entered, complaining that Kasuma had done something terrible to her and had said they should end their friendship, her cousin, Takaya Shiki Sakura, who was present, asked if that was true. Rua confirmed it, saying that Kasuma had never spoken to her like that before. Sakura then asked if Kasuma had done something horrible to make him want to end their friendship. Rua explained that he hadn't said anything bad. He had only told her that she was his slave and that just being her childhood friend bothered him. That was all he had said. Hearing this, her cousin said those were awful words. Even her grandfather commented that it wasn't surprising Kasuma had gotten upset upon hearing that. Rua justified herself, claiming she didn't say it seriously and was just teasing him a little. She explained that since Kasuma entered high school, he had been talking about wanting to make friends and have a girlfriend, which seemed strange. To her, her cousin disagreed, saying that wanting friends and a girlfriend was perfectly normal. Rua then yelled, saying it wasn't normal because the most beautiful princess in the world was right next to him. She was there with him, so it was impossible for him to want to spend time with others, let alone get a girlfriend. She added that she shouldn't be upset just because she had played a few pranks and teased him a little. That wasn't wrong. Then she snapped, saying no one understood Kasuma like she did because she loved him. At that moment, her indulgent grandfather commented that Kasuma was actually the one to blame. Her wiser cousin suggested that Rua apologize if she wanted to mend her relationship with him. However, Rua refused. She asked Sakura, her teacher, to do something about it. She wanted Sakura to fix everything and find a way for Kasuma to apologize to her. The adorable Rua even asked her to tell him that she loved him very much and, if possible, give him a kiss. At this last request, Sakura could only smile and then asked her grandfather if he wanted Kasuma to become Rua's husband. The grandfather immediately answered affirmatively. In fact, he had made Sakura Kasuma's teacher to teach him martial arts, science, and other skills for this very reason. He also knew Rua liked Kasuma a lot and didn't believe there was anyone more talented than him for her. Upon hearing her grandfather's words, Sakura could only confirm that it was absolutely true. She had never seen anyone as talented as Kasuma since elementary school. His grades had always been the best, even though he deliberately kept his average modest to avoid standing out too much. He did this to remain in Rua's shadow. If he ever took things seriously, he wouldn't just have the best grades in school, but in all of Japan. That's why he avoided standing out to prevent causing a scandal. Moreover, Kasuma was very popular among the girls at school. Even Rua, with her influence, had managed to get the girls who liked him to transfer to other schools, which made Kasuma believe that he wasn't popular with them. Rua, on the other hand, proudly commented that it was obvious she would get rid of those girls because, after all, he was hers. The grandfather commented that, after hearing all this, it was clear that Kasuma was the true candidate to inherit the Taikai group. Sakura remained silent, considering the possibility. But she knew that after the fight with Rua, Kasuma no longer had any reason to hold back his potential, whether in studies, sports, or love. Things could get pretty complicated from that point. On dot, the next morning at school, people were talking about the confrontation between Kasuma and Princess Rua when he arrived. He found his desk and chair removed, with a sign saying there was no space for him. He knew more or less what had caused the sit was all because of the super idol. Famous though to him, she was just that despicable girl he no longer wanted to associate with. Our protagonist attended Taikai Academy, where the motto was to shape people of Class S and turn them into the best in the world, which is why it was often called the Academy S. The Academy admitted only the most outstanding students in various fields, even exempting them from entrance exams. It was a caste system designed to mold the future leaders of the government and other important positions. Within this school, the center of attention and the most well-known and influential person was Princess Takayachiki Rua. Moreover, the director was her own grandfather, which explained the teacher's leniency toward her. Kasuma knew he couldn't go to the teacher's office to resolve this. The result would be predictable. At first, he considered putting his desk and chair back as they were before, but then he decided against it. He wouldn't act the same as always. He left a note explaining that, since there was no space for him, he would study on his own and asked the teachers to manage his attendance as appropriate. After that, he walked away. Seeing this, his classmates whispered, wondering if he really dared to defy Princess Rua's wishes. As Kasuma walked, he thought about how important it was to avoid being found to prevent causing any more trouble. He was heading to an underground storage room, a place he alone knew about and often went to between classes. Kasuma had learned about the underground storage room thanks to a senpai from the library committee. He desired a normal life, but he knew that, after challenging that girl, it would be hard to be friends with anyone, let alone have a girlfriend. However, at least he could be alone and live in peace. When he opened the door to the storage room, he found a girl changing. She screamed as soon as she saw him, and at that moment, Kasuma didn't realize that the scream would mark the beginning of a series of events that would revolve around him. Surrounded by unusual girls, the normal, peaceful life he had always longed for might never come. Meanwhile, Rua sat calmly at her desk, confident that Kasuma would return soon to apologize. On the other hand, in a YouTube video, the super famous idol Rua greeted her fans enthusiastically before addressing some things that had been bothering her lately. She mentioned that she had recently been to a karaoke where someone ruined the atmosphere. However, she left out the fact that it was a boy, and showing professionalism, lied, saying there were only girls there. She took the opportunity to encourage her subscribers not to behave that way. Before signing off, she announced that she was thinking of debuting in a new project with a cute seiyuu named Aminato. They both studied at the same school and belonged to the same agency. They would release a CD together and, in 2 weeks, perform at Shan Mall with free tickets. After a farewell, a wave of positive responses and support poured in, although some insults were also aimed at the person who ruined the karaoke. Back to Kasuma, still at the door of the storage room. He apologized to the girl for what had happened and introduced himself. She also apologized, saying she shouldn't have screamed like that. Kasuma quickly assured her it was his fault for entering without knocking. Apparently, she knew about the room and nodded, telling him he could come in now, apologizing for making him wait outside. Kasuma took a quick glance and curiously asked why she was wearing sports clothes, or rather, why she had decided to change their. The girl shyly apologized again before explaining that she had been looking for a place to practice her singing and dancing, and she remembered this storage room someone had mentioned. She confessed she was a seiyuu and would soon perform live, as part of a group, so she needed to practice. Kasuma commented that she was also part of the entertainment world. He thought it wasn't too strange considering there were several artists at this school, including his childhood friend. Apparently, the girl in front of him was one of them. At that moment, Kasuma complimented her dedication, saying she even brought a mirror to the room. However, he asked what had happened with her class. Embarrassed, she explained that when she arrived at school, she found her desk and chair in the hallway with a note that said, "No space for you." Hearing this, Kasuma thought the situation sounded too familiar. He remembered seeing tears in her eyes earlier. His thoughts were interrupted when his phone vibrated. He checked it to find a long list of messages from Rua. She was asking where he was, warning him that he would be late for class. She also asked if he had seen the video from the previous day, and the responses from her fans who said what he did was very cruel. Rua also warned him that she might mention his name in her next video, which could lead to her fans attacking him. Finally, she urged him to obediently bring his desk and chair to the classroom and kneel to apologize. Kasuma didn't respond. He simply blocked her. Back with Amane, Kasuma asked why she was going through such things if she was a standout student, someone who had entered the school thanks to her talent. However, she corrected him, saying that although she was a seiyuu, she wasn't very famous, so neither her face nor her voice stood out much. Kasuma, confused, asked what she was talking about. Although he couldn't see her face clearly due to her bangs, her voice sounded quite lovely to him. He added that it was like the sound of a pleasant, memorable bell. Hearing this compliment, Amane was surprised and blushed with extreme embarrassment. She turned away, saying he was exaggerating too much. She explained that in the world of seiyus and idols, There were many people with much better voices than hers. Compared to Rua Takayachiki, she was nothing. She added that, luckily, she had been paired with Rua, which was probably why she had been receiving such treatment lately. She had started getting negative comments on her social media, saying her presence would affect Rua's image and ruin it. She received many insults and criticisms like that. Kasuma found this interesting because, apparently, idol fans could be just as despicable as the idols themselves. At that moment, Kasuma asked how she had ended up paired with that pig. Hearing this, Amane was stunned and asked what he had. Jess said. Kasuma quickly apologized, saying it was an accident, and clarified that he was referring to Rua Takayachiki. Hearing this, Amane became upset and told him he shouldn't speak like that. She warned him it was dangerous to say such things. About Rua within the school, Kasuma tried to calm her down, assuring her that no one else was around. Once she calmed down a bit, Amane explained that it had been a decision of her agency. She added that since both she and Rua attended the same school and were with the same agency, and given that she was a quiet and ordinary person, her only role was that of a secondary character. Amane's words were harsh for Kasuma, who couldn't help but think she was being too hard on herself. He realized that since both girls were with Tekai Music, a company owned by Rusha's grandfather, it was clear that the agency would do everything to benefit Rua. He also considered that the situation with Amane's desk was probably caused by someone opposed to the collaboration, considering Amane as inferior. Still, he felt everything was excessive, interrupting his thoughts. Amane announced that she didn't mind playing a secondary role. She added that for someone like her, an opportunity like this was very rare, and that's why she wanted to give it her all. She didn't want to become a burden. Kasuma stayed silent for a moment before asking if that's why she was working so hard in the storage room. She confirmed, and with a smile, Kasuma commented that he thought it was great. It seemed like he had come up with an idea. He told Amane that he would help her practice, even if he could only offer advice from the perspective of a beginner. If she didn't mind, he was willing to accompany her. Amane shook her head, smiling brightly, and took Kasuma's hand, expressing her gratitude for his support. This surprised Kasuma a little, thinking that this girl, compared to the pig of his childhood friend, was much more charming. Later, during the break, Kasuma walked down the hallway with 2 bottles of water, concerned that Amane, after practicing since morning, might have gotten dehydrated. That's when he heard a voice calling him to wait. It was Rua who asked where the hell he had gone and why he skipped class. She demanded to know who he thought he was. Kasuma thought to himself, "Here we go again." Rua looked at him arrogantly and asked why he was ignoring her and blocking her messages, telling him that no one could ignore her. She asked if he was so nervous he couldn't look at her. Kasuma didn't respond and walked right past her without a word. This made Rua even more upset. Just then, someone grabbed Kasuma by the shoulder, and the voice asked why he was ignoring the girl, adding that it was a huge disrespect to Rua. Looking at the boy's face, Kasuma immediately recognized him as the future star of the baseball club. Kasuma wondered if he had nothing better to do than stick with Rua, considering that Kasuma himself should be learning from Minato Amane. The angry boy asked if Kasuma was staring at him and urged him to speak up. At that moment, the boy threw a punch, but it passed right through the air as if Kasuma had vanished. The boy was left completely confused. Kasuma appeared behind him. With an imposing presence, the people around them began to murmur, wondering what had just happened and if the punch had missed. Some even joked that the boy looked pathetic. To add fuel to the fire, Kasuma, with an expressionless face, asked the boy what was wrong and if he needed more training. This infuriated the boy, who tried to hit him again. But Rusha's voice stopped him cold. She pointed at the boy and told him that only she, or someone authorized by her, had the right to bother Kasuma. He couldn't mess with Kasuma without her permission. The boy, obviously, just nodded without saying anything. Kasuma then walked up to Rua, who, with a smile, asked him what was going on. It was then that he asked if she thought she had done something impressive, correcting himself and saying that no one had the right to bother him. That person didn't exist. He added that he wouldn't allow anyone to mess with him, whether it was her or anyone else. He walked past her without hesitation, telling her not to bother him again. Rua stumbled and fell to the ground, trembling. The sycophants around her quickly approached and asked if she was okay. She stammered but finally managed to say that Kasuma had been so cool. A week later, Amane was practicing diligently in the storage room. In the middle of her practice, she tripped and would have fallen if Kasuma hadn't arrived just in time to catch her. This made Amane blush. After standing up, she apologized for disturbing him. Kasuma told her not to worry about it, as he was happy to help. The important thing was that she didn't get hurt. Surprised, Amane remarked how incredible he was, as every time she fell, he was always there just in time to help her. The protagonist, unfazed, replied that it wasn't anything special, just normal. Amane raised her voice, denying this, and insisted he was truly amazing. She added that since the day they met, he had always been helping and protecting her. She didn't even keep track of how many times he had saved her. With a choked voice, she told him she was really grateful. Kasuma, stunned by these words, was hearing